Our Sky Fox is over. What we're hearing is ICE activity. This is at 105th and Avenue N. I believe this is in the Chicagoland area. Is that what we're hearing? Okay, that is in the Chicagoland area. Looks like far south side. They're taking some people into custody here. We see a black SUV, and we just saw a person dressed in military fatigues with either Border Patrol or ICE escorting a person against the front hood of that black SUV. It looks like there are several agents in the area here. Again, this is alleged ICE activity at 105th and Avenue N in the Chicagoland area. This is the far south side. It looks like they have the street blocked off there. We're hearing reports that this all started as a crash, and then it looks like ICE agents responded to the scene. Boy, we see a lot of people there. It looks like some of the agents are perhaps wearing plain clothes and others are in military fatigues. Lots of people in the street there. It looks like they're kind of shuffling those people, ushering those people near this black SUV and some other vehicles on the scene there. As we continue to get new information, and again, this is just coming into the newsroom. That's why I was delayed at bringing you the news, because we just got this shot from Sky Fox. We're just learning more about this situation, but it looks like a lot of people have gathered in the middle of the road there. This is ICE is reporting that there have been about 1,500 arrests so far since Operation Midway Blitz in the city of Chicago. So about for the past month, they've picked up 1,500 people. We're going to continue to stay with this scene as we get new information. And excuse me if I pause to see if new information has come in via email on this scene. Again, what we know at this point at 12:28 in the afternoon is that there is a large presence of ICE and potentially Border Patrol agents at 105th and Avenue N on the south side of Chicago. Lots of vehicles blocking the street there. It's hard to tell if there are plainclothes officers or those are just residents in the area, but you can see, oh my goodness, at least 24, maybe close to 50 agents there in the area. What we're hearing at this point is this all started as a crash. We don't know if it involved one vehicle or multiple vehicles. We don't know if maybe those agents were in pursuit of someone when this all happened, but it's certainly attracting a lot of attention on the south side of Chicago. We are currently reaching out to get you more information on this scene. It looks like this is going to be a big story of the day here in Chicago on this Tuesday afternoon. Since we joined this scene about 3 minutes ago, we saw at least one person, maybe two people taken into custody, and it looks like those agents are handcuffing additional people as well. Again, this all started as a crash on the south side of Chicago. We have very little information at this point in time, but we want to stay with this scene because it's so active at 105th and Avenue N. This as we continue to follow this. You know, initially the Trump administration ordered the National Guard to the city of Chicago. We had hundreds of troops from Texas, and the Illinois National Guard also called up. A judge's decision has put that to an end. So those agents, or those troops, I should say, are not allowed to be deployed at this point in time. But still, ICE agents, ATF, FBI, Border Patrol still allowed to do their business in the city of Chicago and Chicagoland areas. All right, it looks like some of the folks that have arrived on the scene here, one of them is carrying a flag. So it looks like in addition to those agents, those federal agents, we also have some protesters perhaps. And I'm trying to see if maybe some local police are involved in this, because I'm trying to make out the uniforms of some of the officers involved here. Right now, I am counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SUVs, it looks like that maybe belong to those agents. It looks like we are seeing some movement. Initially, a report of a vehicle crash that led to some detainments. There's a pickup truck on the scene there. I'm trying to see if that has any damage. Perhaps that's the vehicle in question that began this. We don't know if maybe there was a vehicle that was being pursued by those agents, and that's what maybe drew this attention. Looks like right now those agents are trying to block some of the protesters off from the scene. Okay, what I'm hearing now is that this is on the east side of Chicago, excuse me, and that we do not have any word that local law enforcement is involved in this. Again, this scene at 105th and Avenue N in Chicago, on the east side there. Okay, we have some agents that were seen firing some pepper balls. And as we stay on this scene, we've been with it now for about 6 minutes. We do see a significant number of protesters gathering. At least 2 people taken into custody, and I want to clarify what we're hearing right now is no local law enforcement involved in this. This is just federal agents. Very close to this scene, let's see here. I want to tell you, this is the east side neighborhood of Chicago. All right, let's see. But this is actually on the south side of Chicago, but it's the east side neighborhood. And it looks like, you know, very residential area. There are a few businesses several blocks away. 106th Street, there's like a business zone there. So this is fairly residential. I have Paris Schutz joining me now as well as we take a closer look at the scene. Okay, let's set this up for you, Paris. I know you just joined me. So we've been on this scene about, let's say, 8 minutes now. And when we initially joined, we saw federal agents taking a couple people into custody, and they're blocking off this intersection of 105th at Avenue N, which is the east side neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. Boy, it looks like a large number of agents there, and protesters are continuing to arrive at the scene.
Certainly, yeah, looks like a lot of folks out there. Now, that's the 10th ward there. So the southeast side, that's Peter Chico, alderman. That's kind of the ward where Ed Verdoliak came from, you know, a working class, ethnic Eastern European ward, now very large Hispanic Latino population, and also African American population. And so, you know, it's where all the industry was. It's where all the factories used to be. And there's a lot of environmental groups down there that talk about their worries about environmental pollution down there. So there's a very close-knit neighborhood, obviously, as you see them coming out here. Now, ICE, you know, they've complained that as they go into these residential neighborhoods, folks are tailing them in cars, they're boxing them in, and thus the need for tear gas and the more aggressive activity. Now, this is what DHS has said consistently. We don't have a statement from them on this particular situation. Residents tell a different story. They say these ICE agents are coming in and disrupting these neighborhoods, and folks are just trying to track them and videotape them, which they do have a legal right to do in the state of Illinois, to shoot on video police officers or law enforcement in the act of law enforcement. And so that's where some of these things have turned contentious, as they've claimed that people are following them, trailing them, blowing whistles. You know, there's a group going around blowing whistles when ICE agents are you know, conducting their raids, and that's obviously irritating the ICE agents, but it's sort of an attempt to get people into their homes and to tell people that ICE is there. So this is what we've seen play out in places like Rogers Park, Albany Park over the weekend. And it's really upset a lot of residents. We obviously have seen a lot of cell phone videos of residents that don't feel like agents should be coming into residential neighborhoods in the plain of day and acting very aggressively, especially. So that's you know, that's kind of the backdrop of what you're seeing. You see these pictures here, very residential, very blue collar, bungalow, southeast side, 10th ward. That's Alderman Peter Chico. I know we're attempting to get him on the line to see what exactly is happening there.
You know, what's the status of the ICE agents or federal agents congregating in Chicago? We had the ruling on the National Guard, the judge saying, the U.S. District Judge saying that they could not be deployed to the streets of Chicago. But what is the latest on the Trump administration's push to keep those federal agents in Chicago? Have you heard anything new on that?
Well, yeah, the judge, I mean, there's a stay or an injunction here for 14 days, about 11 more days left of that. And basically, they cannot be deployed. I mean, the law is pretty clear on that. They can't be deployed until they go back to court and they figure out whether to extend that injunction. So this is all ICE agents. This is all federal agents. And this is why I think DHS has said, well, we want National Guard to come in and help act as backup. But, you know, the law is the governor has to approve the deployment of the National Guard unless something like the Insurrection Act. And you've heard President Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act, which is a very rare and extreme thing to do. Now you see some flags there. It looks like Colombia and Mexico. I'm sorry, Venezuela perhaps, or a Mexican flag. Which again represents a lot of, a lot of the recent asylum seekers are Venezuelan. A lot of undocumented immigrants are Mexican. And there's tension between these two communities. A lot of Mexican immigrants feel like, well, we've come the right way. We've been here for generations, and now there are Venezuelan asylum seekers escaping some of the difficult conditions in that country. I'm just going off of the flag.
We know that the Biden administration allowed for Venezuelan immigrants to stay here without penalty. During his administration, he put down that executive order. And so this is an interesting scene. Also,
which has been rescinded, which has been revoked.
But I just kind of laying the land for that here. Now, what is the status of, there was a ruling about using tear gas and rubber bullets against protesters, and what we've heard with this scene so far is that they have deployed tear gas.
Yeah, I mean, the ruling is they have to give 2 warnings before they deploy anything like that, and we don't know if ICE agents are following that. I mean, we've had residents anecdotally in some of these cell phone videos say they did not see that they feel like these agents have just kind of come in and thrown tear gas at will and not given the warnings as a federal judge has required. I mean, they cannot use force against protesters, people expressing their First Amendment right. When it turns into something more dangerous, ICE has said some of those protests have turned into folks obstructing our ability to do our work. And that indeed you can't obstruct law enforcement. That's a felony. But the judge is saying, but you got to give 2 warnings if you're ICE. You can't just throw tear gas or have munitions or rubber bullets. As you look at, I mean, it does seem like the agents there are outnumbered by members of the community. And, this is a tricky situation for Chicago police because the sanctuary laws, they cannot be seen assisting in immigration situations. But there was the controversy over whether they had gotten the order not to reply a week and a half ago to the situation in Brighton Park when an ICE agent had called for help. And so, I mean, it seems like, if police officers come and help keep peace between protesters and ICE agents, that wouldn't necessarily constitute a violation of the law. But, there are a lot of folks very closely watching what local police do and saying the laws are clear, local police cannot assist in immigration activities. I guess, is that Chicago police that we see there that they had zoomed in on? So, I mean, if Chicago police are standing in the periphery trying to just maintain order, that's something that they're certainly legally allowed to do.
How does an investigation with ICE work? Because with Chicago police, I mean, they could be on the scene hours.
Yeah, there they go. Those are Chicago police right there. So it looks like they're trying to just kind of go in and disperse the crowd, kind of help maintain some distance between the ICE agents and protesters. And again, the line is very thin. They can't be seen helping ICE on an immigration raid. So this right now is just trying to keep the peace, trying to keep the neighborhood safe, trying to keep officers safe and protesters safe, which, of course, police are trained in doing. They are trained in doing this. There's a lot being said about Customs and Border Patrol officials and ICE agents are not trained in crowd control and de-escalation and urban policing as is shown here. I mean, we've seen a lot of these contentious situations are part, there's some more tear gas there, partially because they're just not trained in this. They don't know how to effectively de-escalate, and there's a lot of questions as to whether they should be coming into these residential neighborhoods in the plain of day without a warrant or without some kind of, distinct distinct person that they're coming after. And as you see the tear gas going again. So they're dispersing people.
Well, and let me also say, too, that there was concern for Chicago officers who get involved.
Yes.
To aid in this, but they're also getting hit with the tear gas.
Well, and that was one of the things that Superintendent Snelling had said is like, if we don't respond right away, it might be because we want our officers equipped with riot control and face masks and stuff like that. And if there, as you can see right there, there goes the tear gas. And a lot of folks are upset that tear gas going into residential neighborhoods going into people's homes. You know, if people have asthma, people have problems, this could be very problematic. And this is why people have problems with ICE very forcefully and aggressively coming into residential neighborhoods right in the middle of the day like this.
You wonder how long this is going to last. As I started to ask before, you know, you've got a police investigation. We know that these can shut down intersections, interstates for hours. And so, but with this, it's a different sort of, you know, is there an investigation going on? Are they just trying to pick people up here and then they move on? They disperse the protesters and they move on. And it does look like some of the vehicles are leaving. Well, this is to disperse the
protesters, yeah. And it looked like they were fleeing. And so this is 105th and Avenue N. Again, I mean, this is near the border of Indiana here. This is a little east of the Skyway. So, yeah, and as you notice, it's such a small, it's a couple square block radius here. And that's why, you know, the notion of invoking the Insurrection Act for things that are happening on a 2 or 3 block radius in Portland or in Chicago or in the suburbs of Chicago would seem to be extreme, because this is not nationwide, this is not even citywide or neighborhood-wide. These are actions that the federal agents are provoking by going into these neighborhoods, and folks come out and they videotape them, or some of them follow them, and as we mentioned, some of them blow whistles to try and warn people that ICE is there engaging in activities. So what the police are going to do is just kind of seal off a few square block perimeter around there to make sure traffic doesn't go in there as this tear gas gets deployed. And I'm sure we'll be waiting to see the cell phone videos that come out. We'll have to authenticate them, obviously, but you know, I'm sure people have been very aggressive in taking video of some of these things that have happened. But you know, this is the problem, is that federal agents are they're not telling local authorities where they're going to conduct their raids and their operations, which is frustrated local authorities, and why, you know, partially why there's such a contention. So sometimes they do go in to the police, you know, the district office there, to the police, and in the past that's what they had been doing. I don't know that they're still doing this because this has gotten so contentious, but they would go in and just kind of inform local police, hey, we're going to go to 105th and Avenue N, there's something. Yeah,
you wonder, had someone, were there people leaking where they were going? They were fearing for their safety, and that's why?
You know, as bad as the relationship is between public officials and the federal government right now, they have maintained somewhat of a dialogue with the police, and Snelling has mentioned that. Again, just going in and informing them, we're going to be here just so you know, just so you're informed. We know we can't, you know, per the law, you can't come help us, you know, raid a house, but you should know for public safety purposes where we're at. And you know, Snelling has said that they've still kept that dialogue and that communication. As you see, police clearly are there.
Well, good morning, everyone. Today, we'd be remiss if we did not make some remarks about the extraordinary historic moment, or many moments, that happened yesterday in Israel. The world's eyes are still fixed on Israel, where President Trump is welcoming home now the last of the hostages who've endured 2 years in Hamas captivity. I thought it was remarkable. I saw a video last night of one of the released hostages who made the point that as soon as the election was held in November in the United States, Hamas began to treat him and his fellow hostages much better. They fed them better, they respected them more, they changed the tone of how they treated them, they no longer spit upon them, as he said in his own words. Elections have consequences. And he said or implied that the Hamas was counting on Kamala Harris to win and not President Donald J. Trump. But thankfully for the whole world, that didn't happen. And this is an historic moment. It deserves enormous credit and recognition on the world stage. It's truly, truly historic. For generations, we have aspired to peace in the Middle East, everyone around the world, and now President Trump has delivered it. I'm going to make an announcement today. It's the announcement in the U.S. that was made in the Knesset yesterday. I'm proud to tell you that together with my friend Speaker Ohana of the Israeli Knesset, the equivalent of our Congress, we're going to embark upon a project together to rally speakers and presidents of parliaments around the world so that we will jointly nominate President Donald J. Trump for next year's Nobel Peace Prize. No one has ever deserved that prize more, and that is an objective fact. As Speaker Ohana said before the Knesset yesterday, quote, "Whoever saves one life, it is though he has saved an
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Erica Kirk.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please, this is such an honor. This is the, please be seated. This is the first time we've been at the new and improved Rose Garden, and people are loving it. They're loving it like they've not loved a lot of things. We have the Presidential Walk of Fame, which you just saw, and it just opened. We wanted to get it open for this occasion. We were hoping we were able to get outside, and the weather allowed us to. It was supposed to be a terrible rainy day. I was telling Eric, and God was watching, and he didn't want that for Charlie. He just didn't want that. So it's really beautiful. It couldn't be more beautiful. Today we're here to honor and remember a fearless warrior for liberty, beloved leader who galvanized the next generation like nobody I've ever seen before, and an American patriot of the deepest conviction, the finest quality and the highest caliber, the late, great Charlie Kirk. Five weeks ago, our nation was robbed of this extraordinary champion. He was a champion in every way. I got to know him so well. He didn't like losing, and he was able to fight people that were enemies, and he didn't necessarily love those enemies so much. You know, I heard he loved his enemies, and I said, wait a minute, is that the same Charlie that I know? I'm not sure, but I didn't want to get into it. But it was a horrible, heinous, demonic act of murder. He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved this country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk, our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you. As you know, only hours ago I returned from a very historic trip to secure peace in the Middle East. People said that couldn't be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Charlie felt it could be done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I raced back halfway around the globe. I was going to call Erica and say, Erica, could you maybe move it to Friday? And I didn't have the courage to call. But you know why I didn't call? Because I heard today was Charlie's birthday. And I said, you know, that was a definite. And I said, we're going to have to forget about some of those very big, very rich countries that expected me to be there. And I can tell you, based on the length of that flight, I wouldn't want to go back tomorrow. But I would not have missed this moment for anything in the world. Nothing. And it's a very important time for our country, and our country is doing so well. It's never done better. We are a country with almost now $18 trillion of investment coming in. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. Previous administration had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have more than 18, it'll be much more than 20 by the time the year, more than $20 trillion. There's never been a country in the world that had anything like that. What's happened to our country is incredible in a short period of time. Charlie was a big person for, sir, could we close up those borders, please, a little bit? You know, they're really leaking badly. I said, Charlie, I haven't gotten there yet. But, you know, it came out the last 4 months. Literally nobody was allowed into our country. And the only people that were allowed in were people that came in legally. The borders are absolutely stone cold closed, and they reported 0, 0, 0, and 0, so that's pretty good. But he was a big believer. He wanted people in the country more than I did, frankly. He wanted them to come in legally, and he got his wish. October 14th is Charlie's birthday, and he should have been turning 32 years old that day. When I first met him, he was like 22, and I said, boy, he's awfully young, but I thought he was older than that, you know. He looked a little bit older than his age. That's okay, you know. That's not good when you're old, but when you're young, it's great. He had the best of all things, but he was special. But instead, Charlie is attaining a far more important milestone. We're entering his name forever into the eternal roster of true American heroes. He's a true American hero, an amazing person, way, way beyond his years. And I'm honored to be joined by a woman who has endured unspeakable hardship with unbelievable strength, and that's Charlie's widow, Erica. And I just want to thank you, Erica. He loved you so much. I was with him. Oh, please. Thank you, darling. Thank you. I was with him before I met Erica, and he told me he was going to get married. He said, "You won't believe how beautiful she is." I said, well, then now that I meet her, he's right. But then he also said, and you know what? She's like the smartest person I know. See, they do go together on occasion. Not often. Not often. But on occasion they go together. But he was in love with you. He was deeply in love with you. It's great. Erica, your love and courage have been an inspiration to all of us, and we will always be here for you, and we're always going to be here for your gorgeous, beautiful children, and we'll never forget what your family has sacrificed for our country. Man loved our country. When things were going badly for our country, he was so, as you know, angry. He would get angry because he said it doesn't have to be that way. We're also pleased to be joined by an incredible group of Charlie's friends, very powerful friends, actually, and some not so powerful, and they're actually better people, okay? I know them all. They're the less powerful ones. I have to tell you that, all of you power guys down here. The best ones in the group are the ones that are less successful, but that happens too. No, they're all great, and they're here. And let's start with Erica's father. Where is Erica's father? Where are you? Where are you, Dad? Oh, look at him. Wow. I want to get a hat like that, too. I like that. How are you? Nice to see you again. Thanks as well to Vice President J.D. Vance, who's been fantastic. J.D., thank you very much. Great. Doing a great job. Did a great job on Sunday with George Slopadopoulos. I think put him away pretty good. Second lady, who's a phenomenal woman, Usha Vance. Thank you very much, Usha. Thank you very much. Great woman. President of Argentina. He wanted to be here. That's Argentina's a serious flight, right? And he's become a superstar, and he's doing amazing things. He's a MAGA person, but it's make Argentina great again. That's what he does, right? And I want you to stand, please, Javier Milei. Doing a great job. Thank you very much. Many members of my cabinet are here. Just about all of them are here. I won't go into every single one of them, but I'll announce a few of the people that have really turned this country around and helped me. Incredible people. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Where is Mike? Mike, what a job you're doing, Mike. What a job you're doing. And I watched you this morning, and you're in there trying to say, look, just let the country open. Everything will be fine. We're dealing with some radical left lunatics. And I just wish Charlie was here to fight us. I think the fight would have been over already. He would have had a march on the Capitol by people whose average age is about 21, because there's nobody that had that relationship with young people. Right, Mike? So thank you, Mike, for being here. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Steve, thank you very much. A brave guy and a friend. House Majority Whip, another terrific man, Tom Emmer. Thank you, Tom. Senate Majority Whip, John Barrasso. John, thank you very much. You have all these senators. I'm going to get in trouble. I'm not going to read all their names. I'll be reading all day. We'll be talking about Charlie in about 45 minutes from now. We can't do that. So all of the senators, there's so many of you, thank you very much. I do want to thank Senator Thune for doing a terrific job. He's really been leading properly. Do you agree, Mike? The team, the two of these guys have been fantastic. So to Senator Thune, I want to thank you very much. Incredible job. I watched him this morning, and he was out there pounding them this morning on television, too. And John Barrasso, thank you for the work you've done, and congratulations on your success. But I want to thank you all and all of the Congress people that are here. And I see we have our Attorney General here, and you are doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much, Pam. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have everybody. Wow, that's incredible. Okay, I'm not going to do any more. I'm going to be here too long. But I just want to thank you. Have given him such support, but he always gave you such support. That's why you're here. And very unusual. Charles James Kirk was a visionary and one of the greatest figures of his generation. He was truly an amazing figure and growing leaps and bounds. He knew that the fight to preserve our heritage is waged not only on the battlefield and in the halls of power, of which we have tremendous power here, including the head of a place called War. We call it now War. We had Defense. We had our Secretary of Defense. Now we have a Secretary of War. And somehow I think it's more emblematic, and hopefully we'll never have to use war, but the fact that we're ready is very good. Peace through strength is very important, but also in the hearts of our nation's youth. That's where Charlie rode strongest. At age 18, that insight inspired Charlie to found the organization that ultimately touched the lives of millions and millions of people, and so many young people that nobody's ever seen anything like it, frankly. Turning Point USA. It's amazing, and it's actually bigger now. It's become bigger in the last few weeks than Charlie ever thought. I think his end vision in many years from now would have been just a fraction of what it turned out to be in a couple of weeks, right? It's amazing. With hard work and joyful spirit and endless enthusiasm and determination. And he did have great enthusiasm. You know, I always say you need enthusiasm to be successful. He had great enthusiasm. Charlie grew Turning Point into the largest conservative youth organization in the entire country. He forged a personal bond with countless young conservatives. He fought for free speech, religious liberty, strong borders, and a very strong and proud America. In everything he did, he put America first. He really put America first. And ultimately, Charlie became more than a leader of an important organization. He became the leader of historic movements all over the country. There were movements, individual movements, one movement, but it was historic. Everything he did was historic, and a true evangelist for the cause of freedom and the word of Almighty God. God was very important to Charlie. He would say, you know, if you don't have religion, you're not going to have a strong country. It's true. He was so wise beyond his years. You know, I talk to him sometimes and say, this guy is like a young guy. He was really a wise man. From the time Charlie worked on my presidential campaign in 2016, and he was there right from the beginning. He liked me. I don't know. I have no idea why. What the hell was he thinking? He said, you're going to win, sir. I said, you know, I'm running against 17 senators and a lot of tough people and governors. We have all these people. And he said, no, you're going to win, sir. He said, not going to be close. And he made it happen. He helped make it happen. I'll tell you that. Without him, who knows what would be. Maybe you'd have Kamala standing here today. That would not be good. I will tell you, Javier, you don't know who Kamala is. Promise, it would not be good. You agree with that, Howard? He also mobilized countless citizens to go vote. It's called Go Vote. Very simple. And with his help in 2024, we won more young people than any Republican by far in the history of our country. And we won the popular vote. We won the swing states, all 7 of them. Remember, they said, oh, well, if Trump could win 4, that would be nice. I win 7 by a lot, by a landslide. But the popular vote was massive. And we won the Electoral College. Remember, they said, well, it's going to be very hard. I'd say 270. Well, we got 312 to 226. And then we won something called districts and councils and different things. But in one case, we won 2,750 to 525. That's the one where you see the map is almost entirely red, except they have a little blue line on one side and a little blue line, meaning New York, and a little bit Los Angeles. I have a feeling that if the vote were 100%, we would have won that too. You want to know the truth. But he knew, and he knew very well, and he also understood honesty, and he was always concerned with honesty. He said the only way we can lose is if the cheating gets so bad, and that's where we came up with a little phrase, too big to rig. We said, go out and vote. Just go out and vote. And we had that. Remember, we used to say that all the time because people would say, oh, they're going to win. We don't have to vote. Let's go to a movie. We'll come home and watch later. And he wasn't about that. So we come up to, with really together, we came up with that phrase, we got to make it too big. I never made a speech where I didn't say at the end, now look, the polls are showing good. Don't believe the polls. He said, we're going to make it, Susie, right? Too big to rig. So if you think we're going to win by a lot, doesn't matter. Pretend we're losing. You got to go out and vote. They voted. And at 9:02, the whole thing was over, right? 9:02. Remember they said, oh, this could go a few days. Well, it went a few minutes. 9:02. And he knew that, and I felt it, but he knew it. He knew it. I think he knew it more than anybody. But Charlie never missed an opportunity to remind us of the Judeo-Christian principles of our nation's founding or to share his deep Christian faith. In his final moments, Charlie testified to the greatness of America and to the glory of our Savior, with whom he now rests in heaven. And he is going to make heaven. I said, I'm not sure I can make it, but he's going to make it. He's there. He's looking down on us right now. It's so incredible. Look at this, how this turned out. This was supposed to be so dark and cloudy. Not dark and cloudy, is it? Look at that, how beautiful that is. There's no artist that can capture it as beautiful as it is today. Wow. It's amazing. As I said, on the day that he was assassinated, Charlie Kirk was a martyr for truth and for freedom. And from Socrates to think, and to St. Peter, from Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King, those who change history the most, and he really did, have always risked their lives for causes they were put on earth to defend. He was put on earth to do exactly what he was doing. He didn't want to waste time. He would have been a top student at any college in the country. I know the college as well. He's smarter than the guys there. He was so smart. But he almost, I guess, didn't have the time. He knew what he wanted to do. It wasn't like, gee, I want to sit in the classroom for 4 years listening to people teach me liberal principles, because they were never going to teach him that anyway. But he didn't have the time. He really didn't have the time. But every time the enemies of goodness and virtue tried to silence the voice of righteous and noble leaders like Charlie, they failed. They seem to fail. Ultimately, they look like they're doing well, and then they end up failing, because the truth has been unrelenting over the years, over history. And people like Charlie, it's just they've got a power that others don't have, and very few people will ever have. So today, like those martyrs before him, Charlie's voice, his message, and his legacy are stronger and greater than ever before. They are greater than ever before. Look, this is a horrible event, but it brought out the greatness of Charlie. Nothing could have ever supplanted this. It's incredible the way people are talking about him, and with great love. I mean, I read so many stories about some of the enemies, but I watch the enemies, and it's hard for them to speak badly about him because they just don't. And then you do have people in the days since Charlie's killing. We've seen exactly why our country so dearly needed his example. We've watched legions of far-left radicals resort to desperate acts of violence and terror because they know that their ideas and arguments are persuading no one. They know that they're failing. They have the devil's ideology, and they're failing, and they know it. They feel it, and they become violent. They seem to become very violent on the left. They've rammed vehicles into federal law enforcement, fired sniper rifles at ICE agents, and me, you know. But I made a turn at a good time. I turned to the right. Charlie couldn't believe it, actually. He said, "How the hell did you make that turn?" I said, "I don't know." But fired rifles and threatened the lives of our Supreme Court justices, our great justices. They have to be protected. We just issued a lot of money, $60 million, to protect the Supreme Court justices. Very important. We can't let anything happen. In places of worship, we're protecting our people. We've seen that a candidate for Attorney General in Virginia boasted that he would want to see the Republican legislature, a legislator in Virginia, shot in the head and to see his children murdered. He actually said this. And now he continues to run for office, and most people continue to back him, but he said he wants his man shot. He said shot in the head and to see his children murdered. And they keep running. Pretty amazing, right? That's a bad one. Let's see how that turns out, but that's a really bad one. Nobody's heard that one before. Especially in the wake of Charlie's assassination, our country must have absolutely no tolerance for this radical left violence, extremism, and terror. We're done with the angry mobs, and we're not going to let our cities be unsafe. We're going to make sure our cities are safe. When you have Chicago, where they had 4,000 people murdered over a very short period of time, 4,000 people, and then we have a governor stand up and say, "Oh, things are going swimmingly." No, they're not. We're going to make Chicago safe, just like we're going to make. Look what we did in D.C. It's so nice that we started here, because this was one of the most violent places in the United States. It'd be dangerous to be right out here. But you couldn't go to a restaurant. The restaurants were all dying. The whole place was dying. You'd have these gorgeous, look at the Washington Monument over there. You'd have these gorgeous buildings and monuments and structures. And people were afraid to leave their apartment. They were afraid to go to work. They'd get into an Uber, and they'd feel safe, and then the Uber would be attacked. They thought they made it to safety, and then the Uber was attacked on the trip in. But we've done a great job, and now it's considered a totally safe city. We haven't had problems. It took us 12 days to make it great. We took out, Pam, 1,700 hard criminals, career criminals in many cases, but these are hardened criminals. Many of them came in through the Biden open borders. We brought them back to the countries. And a couple were so violent that we put them in jail. We don't want to take a chance that they could get back in, because no matter how good we do, somebody can sneak in. They were so violent and so bad. One arrested 28 times. Every time he left prison, he'd get into a violent incident. 28 times. And we put him away for a long time. But we're done with the angry mobs. We're done with it. This is such an unbelievable place right now. You take a look where you can walk down the middle of the street with your wife or your husband. Your children can walk. They can walk alone. It doesn't matter. They can walk anywhere in Washington, and they're safe now. If this were a year ago, they'd have a serious chance of being badly hurt, even killed. They'd come in from Indiana, they'd come in from Iowa, they'd come from Florida to see their nation's capital, and somebody would have to call the parents, "I'm sorry, but your son or your daughter's been killed." Not anymore. You hear those sirens going off? That's good. That's a good sound. That means they either got the bad guy or they're going to stop the bad guy. You didn't hear that sound because nobody wanted to do anything. Nobody. Listen to the beauty of that sound. Seriously. And that's the real deal sirens. They're not politically correct sirens. You hear them, they're about 3 miles away. That's great. What a beautiful sound. They're stopping crime. That's what they're doing. So we're done with the voices of fools. They're fools. And death threats, and we're going to make our cities safe. And I thought it was Charlie's, one of his biggest dreams was that he couldn't believe it. Chicago's going to be a great city again. we've already, we sent people in there 6 months ago, and this governor said, well, crime is down. Yeah, that's because we had the FBI in there for 6 months, just preparing it for the bigger surge. And they've done a great job, the cash and the FBI. They've done a great job, and they love doing it, They love being able to do it. They were restricted from doing it. They couldn't do anything. And now they're totally unrestricted. All they have to do is stop crime, and they're doing it. By the way, Memphis, as you know, you heard they went in about a week ago. One of the most dangerous places in the country, really in the world. It's not just the country. They have very few cities that would compare to some of these cities. You go to Afghanistan, you say, oh, that's unsafe. Well, the crime numbers are much better than the crime numbers in places that we have. So Memphis, I understand, is doing unbelievably in 1 week. It's like a different place. And this took 12 days, and then after that, we just perfected it. But after 12 days, we had good safety here. After 1 month, it's like, it's really amazing. And by the way, restaurants are booming. Restaurants are opening up. The big problem we have, you can't get into a restaurant in D.C. anymore. So they're opening up. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's called safety. It's called law enforcement and letting them do their job. And that's why I said last month that I have directed the Attorney General and the Department of Homeland Security to confront the very real threat of left-wing terrorism in our country. It's a real threat. Not when you confront it, it's not, because they're not brave people. In fact, they're cowards. When you confront them, they immediately fold. You have to see them fold. You have to see them crying. They fold. But it includes dismantling the networks that fund them and finance them, and we're finding out who those networks are. We already know quite a few of them. When you see these violent incidents and then you see people holding this gorgeous sign with beautiful wood, beautiful cardboard, wood, everything's perfect paint job, and they're all the same, there are thousands of them, you know that they weren't made in the basement out of love. They were made by anarchists, and in some cases wealthy. I'll probably find some of my nice friends that are up there being so nice to me, especially lately. They're being very nice. But it surprises you who they may be, and you almost wonder why would they do it? But they're hurting our country, and we're really taking it back one by one. If we didn't go into Los Angeles early on in the administration, the commissioner, the chief of police, Los Angeles, said if they didn't go in, we would have lost our city. Now, they already lost 25,000 houses to fire because they wouldn't let the water come in from the Pacific Northwest, which they should have done. And I said, you better do it. They didn't do it, and we had 25,000 homes where they had no water in their sprinklers, they had no water in the fire hydrants. It would have been a different kind of a thing if they did what they were supposed to do. We had to break in. We broke in and had the water come down. They said for the environment, it's great. They lost 25,000 houses. It's incredible. But the commissioner said without the federal government and President Trump's intervention, we would have lost the entire city. And we have the Olympics going there soon. I got the Olympics. We have the Olympics. We have the World Cup. And we have, most importantly, we have the 250th anniversary of our country. That's going to be most important. And all of these things are happening. And we're going to have safe cities. We're going to have very, very safe cities. So 1 month after Charlie's death, we still feel the terrible shock and the pain of his loss like just about nobody I can think of. Charlie Kirk was one of a kind. He was unstoppable. And he really was. Boy, when he had an idea in his head, he would call me, sir, please, you haven't done it yet. I said, Charlie, relax. Just relax. He didn't relax. He'd call me the next day again. It got it done. But he was like indomitable and always will be. He's really irreplaceable. Nobody going to replace him. But they're going to do great. But you can't replace that kind of person and that kind of talent, frankly. The word talent is an important word, but that kind of talent. So we hold his memory in our hearts forever. Every single day of this administration, we will continue to carry out the mission for which he lived, and he really did. He lived for this country. He lived for his wife and his family, but he lived for this country too. In Charlie's honor, we will continue like we have been to fight, and to win. We're going to win so much. So the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a big deal. You have the Congressional Medal of Honor, military, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is civilian. And the Presidential Medal of Freedom is a really big deal. Very few people get it. Very few people, frankly, qualify. It's a decision of the president, but it's a qualification that's a very hard one to get. And I would like to ask, if I might, the military aide to read Charles James Kirk's citation for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Charles James Kirk. Accepting on behalf of Charlie is his wife, Mrs. Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of the most influential American political figures of his generation. At just 18 years old, he founded Turning Point USA and grew it into the largest conservative youth organization in the nation. For over a decade, he tirelessly traveled the country, leading a movement to restore respect for our founding principles, reawaken our national identity, and inspire a renewed spirit of religious devotion. He was one of the great debaters and communicators of his time. Despite receiving repeated threats, he remained undeterred and modeled courage, logic, humor, and grace to the next generation. On September 10th, 2025, at age 31, Charlie Kirk was assassinated while addressing a group of students. The United States honors him as a martyr for truth and freedom.
Thank you, Mr. President, for honoring my husband in such a profound and meaningful way. And thank you for making this event a priority amid the peace process in the Middle East. Thank you. Very grateful. Charlie always admired your commitment to freedom, and that's something that both of you shared. So thank you. Your support of our family and the work that Charlie devoted his life to will be something I cherish forever, so thank you. To our gracious First Lady in her office for making this event possible, thank you as well. It's beautiful. To Vice President and the lovely Usha Vance, your friendship has been an unbelievable encouragement. Thank you. And to all our friends and family that are here and watching from all around the world, thank you for loving us. Thank you for praying for us and for believing in what Charlie believed in. And to our Turning Point USA staff and the Charlie Kirk Show staff, we love you more than you could ever know. And to the Turning Point USA chapters that are watching all across America right now, you are the heartbeat of this future and of this movement. Everything that Charlie built, you guys are the legacy holders of that. You are living proof that his mission did not die with him. It lives through you. And Charlie always said the next generation will decide whether freedom endures. And because of you, I know that freedom will endure. It will. And today we're gathered not only to celebrate Charlie's birthday, but to honor a truth that he gave his entire life to defend, and that's freedom. The very existence of the Presidential Medal of Freedom reminds us that the national interest of the United States has always been freedom. Our founders etched it into the preamble of our Constitution, and those words are not relics on parchment. They are a living covenant. The blessings of liberty are not man's invention, they are God's endowment. Charlie lived for those blessings, not as abstract words, but as sacred promises. He used to love to journal about this topic all the time, and with such a heart postured of gratitude. And he believed that liberty was both a right and a responsibility. And he used to say, freedom is the ability to do what is right without fear. And that's how he lived. He was free from fear. He was free from compromise, free from anything that could enslave his soul. His name, Charles, literally means free man. And that's exactly who my husband was. He was a free man. And from the time I met him, sitting across from him, being interviewed on politics and philosophy and theology, anything that Charlie loved, any topic he loved, and I just saw the fire in his soul, and there was this divine restlessness within him that came from knowing God placed him on this earth to protect something very, very sacred for all of us. And he never stopped fighting for people to experience freedom. He didn't. Charlie often said that without God, freedom becomes chaos. And he believed liberty could only survive when anchored to truth. And I remember in one of his speeches, he told the audience that the opposite of liberty isn't law. He said it's captivity. And that the freest people in the world are those whose hearts belong to Christ. But what's so powerful is that Charlie had the ability to communicate so brilliantly across all generations. And he reminded us that in a world that tells us freedom is doing whatever you want to do, the real freedom is the power to live freely and to do what is right. And in one of his journal entries, he wrote that he wanted everyone to know that you can't have liberty without moral responsibility. Freedom divorced from faith eventually just destroys itself. And what's so fascinating about all of this is looking back these past 12 years of Turning Point USA and his mission, there's almost this veil of sacredness. Because what I realized is that while he was building an organization, he was also building a movement. One that called people back to God, back to truth, and a movement that was filled with courage. And ironically, for a man who impacted millions, Charlie never desired to be the center of attention. He just wasn't. My husband was not a man of extravagance. He loved simple but deeply meaningful things. Truly. He loved his late night walks. He loved buying more books than he could ever read because he felt there was no such thing as a book budget. And he loved being able to read to our kids the same bedtime story on repeat because he knew it was their favorite. And but to him that was special. And he loved to sit in the sun on a Saturday morning with his cup of decaf coffee, and his phone was off because he was honoring the Sabbath. And for him, it was that moment to catch his breath and just be in peace, because he was unreachable at the moment. And he preferred quiet birthdays. But that never stopped me from telling him. I told him every single year, I said, baby, I love your birthday. I said, because it's the day that God knew the world couldn't go another day without you. And so the rhythm of our usual birthday celebration for him was mint ice cream, mint chocolate chip ice cream. He only had it twice a year, on his birthday and 4th of July. It's just, and then after that, it was back to work as usual. But last year, his one birthday wish was to see the Oregon Ducks play the Ohio State. And they won. Oregon won that night. And it was by far one of the most memorable nights of his birthday experience of his life until today. And so, honestly, President Trump, I have spent 7.5 years trying to find the perfect birthday gift for Charlie. And it's so difficult. And those of you that have spouses or loved ones, you know how difficult it is sometimes to buy a gift for someone that you love, because he wasn't a materialistic man, so that also did not help. But now I can say with confidence, Mr. President, that you have given him the best birthday gift he could ever have.
Thank you.
It's such an honor, and the recognition of a life lived for defending freedom. And that's what Charlie fought for until his last breath. And it was written across his chest in those final moments on one of his simple t-shirts that always carried a message, and this one bearing a single word, freedom. That was the banner over his life, and that shirt was a declaration. The same declaration he made in every speech, every campus visit, every time he shared the gospel at a church, every sleepless night that he would spend praying for the youth of this nation and planning for the future of our country, and just impressing upon them that when we defend liberty, we defend the soul of our nation. My husband never told anyone what to say. He never did. He never told anyone what to say. He would just encourage them to think. He would encourage them to think outside of the traditional political labels. He would want them to think in a way that was anchored in wisdom and truth. But he would never tell anyone what to say. Charlie wasn't content to simply admire freedom. He wanted to multiply it. He wanted to multiply freedom. He wanted young people to taste it and to understand it and defend it. He wanted them to see that liberty isn't self-indulgence, it's self-governance under God. He wanted them to see that. And every day I'd see him getting ready for work. He'd put on his cross necklace, he'd put his ring on his finger. And the boldness in his demeanor was always fearlessness. He wasn't afraid. He was never afraid. In his daily actions, whether in office or on campus or at a church, it was always without fear. That was his creed. That is how he lived out every single day. He didn't fear being slandered. He did not. He didn't fear losing friends, I can tell you that. He didn't. He didn't care. He stood for truth and stood for freedom, and he did not. Everything else was just noise to him. And it's because his confidence in Christ was absolute. That's why. There was no limit to what he would have sacrificed to defend freedom for all. And if the moment had come, he probably would have run for president, but not out of ambition. He would only have done it if that was something that he believed that his country needed from a servant's heart standpoint. And Charlie lived only 31 short years. No, he's 32, but on this side of heaven, but he lived. he lived, every single second he lived. He filled every single day with purpose, and he fought for truth when it was unpopular. And he stood for God when it was costly, but that's what we're called to do. Surprisingly enough, he did pray for his enemies, which is very hard, but he did. He did. He did. No one else, I mean, I saw him do it. No, he never did it in front of anyone else, but I can attest to that. But he also loved people when it was inconvenient. And he ran his race with endurance, and he kept the faith. And now he wears the crown of a righteous martyr. And for me and for our children, the truth really steadies our grief, because heaven gained what earth could no longer contain. A free man made fully free. To all watching, this is not a ceremony. This is a commissioning. And my message is simple. I want you to be the embodiment of this medal. I do. I want you to free yourself from fear. I want you to stand courageously in the truth. Listen for the still, small voice of God. And remember that while freedom is inherited in this country, each of us must be intentional stewards every single day. God began a mighty work through my husband, and I intend to see it through. And the torch is in our hands now. It's in mine, it's in yours, it's in all of yours, it's in all the students with Turning Point USA. And before I close, I'll share with you that I asked our daughter what she would like to say to Daddy for his birthday. Excuse me. She said, "Happy birthday, Daddy. I want to give you a stuffed animal. I want you to eat a cupcake with ice cream, and I want you to go have a birthday surprise. I love you," is what she said. And while our son, he's precious, he can't yet speak, in classic Kirk family fashion, his actions spoke louder than his words, and his gift to you, Charlie, and myself for that matter, was deciding to become the man of the house and be fully potty trained at 16 months. But Charlie, baby, I know that you're celebrating in heaven today, but gosh, I miss you. We miss you. And we love you, and we promise we'll make you proud. And Charlie's life was proof that freedom is not a theory, it's a testimony. He showed us that liberty begins not in the halls of power, but in the man of a heart surrendered to God. And so today, as we honor Charlie with this incredible Presidential Medal of Freedom on his birthday, I stand here with tears and just a humbled heart and spirit, because his story reminds us all that to live free is the greatest gift, but to die free is the greatest victory. Happy birthday, my Charlie. Happy Freedom Day. God bless you.
Does not appear as though there are any active arrests. You see that phalanx of black SUVs, that group of about 36 people there, again, at 105th and Avenue N, just right shy of the Indiana border near the Hammond Horseshoe, the Horseshoe Casino, rather, there on the east side neighborhood. We're going to continue to follow this throughout the day, but again, when we see moments like this, we watch them very carefully, very closely. We've heard reports throughout the last several weeks of ICE agents sort of popping up into different neighborhoods. We're not sure if that's what precipitated this. We have seen other incidents of late where ICE agents come into a neighborhood, they perform some arrests, they take people into custody. It begins the sort of trickle-down effect of protesters following where that has begun. At least on one other occasion, we've seen ICE agents leave and reportedly hit a vehicle on their way out. Now, we just saw some disbursement here. Literally, as we're speaking, you see folks running away. Obviously, we need to be very careful in trying to surmise what might have triggered that. But again, these are the scenes we're seeing unfolding today. It happens to be, as CBS Skywatch shows us, here on the east side of the city, the east side neighborhood, again, 105th and Avenue N, as we zoom out here and try to put a better, finer point on what is unfolding. Our Sarah Maki is en route to this scene. We'll, of course, have more as we get it, but we'll keep an eye on this here in the east side neighborhood, where it appears this is the neighborhood today that ICE has focused in on. We see those white vehicles off to the right side of your screen, kind of forming this boxed-in area, no traffic moving around that area. We're just getting word that that vehicle that you saw being loaded onto that tow truck appears to now have exited the scene. And once it left, that's when we saw those folks sort of running up that block where there's two sedans sort of blocking road vehicle traffic, but we still see a lot of people there. It appears as though maybe that is an individual. Yep, it appears as though someone is being arrested or at least being spoken to there. Again, we have to be very, very careful in trying to connect any dots that we don't know are for sure what we think we are seeing. Particularly with this story, we need to make sure we have all of that before we can say it with any level of authority. But again, if you are traveling on the east side, the southeast side of the city, right near the Illinois-Indiana border, this is unfolding here. You may want to try to use other ways to get around the neighborhood as ICE activity continues here. Let's just take a look and see what else we can see unfolding. There really seems to be a lot of energy here. It appears as though there's another individual in handcuffs here, being taken towards that same vehicle, passing by the first person who was appears to be taken into custody. As we get a better look here, these are the stories we have seen unfold in various communities. Today, it is here in the east side neighborhood. We're going to wait, and when we find out that our crew is on scene, Sarah Maki is making her way there. She left to head down to the scene a short time ago. We hope to get her to kind of augment our coverage here, but this group that sort of dispersed.
Keeping you safer sooner. CBS 2 First Alert Weather. CBS 2 News streams here. CBS News Chicago. Keeping you safer,
Pretty strong words with federal agents, which appear to be ICE agents. This started about 90 minutes ago here in the East Side neighborhood. Again, it is apparently a car accident. Again, what triggered that accident is unclear. We have a crew en route to the scene to kind of put some better information around the images, but you see those flags, you see those federal agents. At this moment, things seem to be peaceful. A short time ago, we saw pictures where it was a little more heated, but it does not appear as though there are any active arrests. You see that phalanx of black SUVs, that group of about 3 dozen people there, again, at 105th and Avenue N, just right shy of the Indiana border near the Hammond Horseshoe Casino, rather, there on the East Side neighborhood. We're going to continue to follow this throughout the day, but again, when we see moments like this, we watch them very carefully, very closely. We've heard reports throughout the last several weeks of ICE agents sort of popping up into different neighborhoods. We're not sure if that's what precipitated this. We have seen other incidents of late where ICE agents come into a neighborhood, they perform some arrests, they take people into custody. It begins the sort of trickle-down effect of protesters following where that has begun. At least on one other occasion, we've seen ICE agents leave and reportedly hit a vehicle on their way out. Now, we just saw some disbursement here, literally as we're speaking. You see folks running away. Obviously, we need to be very careful in trying to surmise what might have triggered that. But again, these are the scenes we're seeing unfolding today. It happens to be, as CBS Skywatch shows us, here on the east side of the city, the East Side neighborhood, again, 105th and Avenue N, as we zoom out here and try to put a better, finer point on what is unfolding. Our Sarah Maki is en route to this scene. We'll, of course, have more as we get it, but we'll keep an eye on this here in the East Side neighborhood, where it appears this is the neighborhood today that ICE has focused in on. We see those white vehicles off to the right side of your screen, kind of forming this boxed-in area. No traffic moving around that area. We're just getting word that that vehicle that you saw being loaded onto that tow truck appears to now have exited the scene. And once it left, that's when we saw those folks sort of running up that block where there's 2 sedans sort of blocking road vehicle traffic, but we still see a lot of people there. It appears as though maybe that is an individual. Yep, it appears as though someone is being arrested or at least being spoken to there. Again, we have to be very, very careful in trying to connect any dots that we don't know are for sure what we think we are seeing. Particularly with this story, we need to make sure we have all of that before we can say it with any level of authority. But again, if you are traveling on the east side, the southeast side of the city, right near the Illinois-Indiana border, this is unfolding here. You may want to try to use other ways to get around the neighborhood as ICE activity continues here. Let's just take a look and see what else we can see unfolding. There really seems to be a lot of energy here. It appears as though there's another individual in handcuffs here, being taken towards that same vehicle, passing by the first person who was appears to be taken into custody. As we get a better look here, these are the stories we have seen unfold in various communities. Today, it is here in the East Side neighborhood. We're going to wait, and when we find out that our crew is on scene, Sarah Maki is making her way there. She left to head down to the scene a short time ago. We hope to get her to kind of augment our coverage here, but this group that sort of dispersed there about 3-4 minutes ago is now kind of back in the intersection, somewhat surrounding that vehicle where we saw that individual put into either handcuffs or zip ties. We've heard a lot of different mechanisms being used by ICE to contain people, and that vehicle was taken out of that intersection. It appears, again, hard to know if this is a new person that's being taken in or the existing folks that we've been seeing from our Skywatch. We're going to join in our on-air coverage over the air on CBS News Chicago here in just a moment, so we're going to pause to reset to make that happen, and stay with us. We're going to stay on this as we continue to watch this unfolding event unfold here on CBS News Chicago.
This is breaking news from CBS News Chicago.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Ty in the CBS News Chicago newsroom. We are looking live here by way of CBS News Skywatch. You are looking at 105th and Avenue N on the city's southeast side. This is the east side neighborhood, just west of the Chicago Skyway, from a marker standpoint, not far from the Horseshoe Casino. Here's what we're understanding has unfolded in the last 90 minutes time thereabouts. ICE agents have kind of swarmed this neighborhood. There have been a number of arrests, 2 that we have seen from the sky. There may have been more before we got on scene. We do not know. And it appears as though these were arrests. Again, we have a reporter en route to the scene here shortly, and we hope to have a better, finer point on this. But you can see a few dozen federal agents, we believe Border Patrol, ICE agents, sort of meeting face to face with residents of this community as these arrests unfold. There was a white SUV that was loaded onto a tow truck a short time ago with damage to the front of that vehicle that was taken away. As that unfolded, things kind of quieted a little bit. You saw a
You don't have the right to do that. I will not. No, because you're here. You're putting yourself in this fucking position.
around the Chicagoland area. ICE agents and Border Patrol has southeast of where this
Never sue the other driver after a car accident. There's a better way to get paid a way bigger check without having to go to court or pay expensive upfront legal fees. Listen, if you've been in a car accident in the past year, even as a passenger, you could be owed a significant cash payout. While most victims are struggling with insurance companies and lawyers, others are receiving 6- and 7-figure payouts without ever stepping foot in a courtroom. Here's how to never have to worry
Get help where you need it most. Microsoft 365 Copilot, your AI assistant at work, is now 15% off for eligible nonprofits. Get started by clicking the link or visiting us at Microsoft.com/nonprofits.
What's the secret to peak health? Going micro with Noom. Micro habits, micro wins, even microdose GLP-1s.
Micro? I can do micro.
With Noom, we all can!
I'm doing it. I'm going micro.
I can do micro.
It's micro season, baby!
Micro changes, big results. Get started at Noom.com.
Do not micro poop on my shoulder.